Brampton gets recommended constantly for GTA buyers who are priced out of Toronto and who want more space without the sticker shock. Those are legit reasons to look here, but there are also 5 things about living in Brampton that most people don't figure out until after they've already arrived, including reason number 4, which almost nobody brings up before you commit. Watch this video first. Reason number 1, it's not as cheap as the reputation suggests. The average home in Brampton right now is sitting around $890,000, detached homes just over $1 million, and semi-detached just around $810,000, with freehold townhomes coming in just under $800,000, and entry point condos around $440,000. That sounds okay. Here's the part people miss. Semi-detached and townhomes are moving fast, selling at 99% of the asking price. That's not a soft negotiable market, that's a real competitive market. However, detached is where there's actual breathing room right now, so there's more inventory, there's room to negotiate, much like a lot of the GTA in this current buyer's market. The good news is that Brampton's sitting around 5 months of inventory, just over that, so it's a balance to buyers' markets, and detached again is skewing more towards buyers. So if you're buying in 2026, in the summer right now, you have real leverage, especially on detached homes. Quick quiz. Before it became one of Canada's most diverse cities, Brampton was actually famous nationwide for something completely different. Was it A, steel manufacturing, B, flower and rose exports, C, automobile plants, or D, dairy farming? Drop your answer in the comments. Answers coming up later in the video. Reason number 2, the commute is rougher than the map suggests. There's no subway in Brampton. The closest TTC stop is Kipling and Islington stations that are quite a bit south of there, and that's quite a big trip from the middle of Brampton. So like a lot of the West End cities or, suburbs, the GO train ends up being your best option, just like with Mississauga. So if you're near one of the stations, the Kitchener line runs through Bramley and Brampton and Mount Pleasant, getting you to Union Station in just about 40 to 45 minutes. It could be up to an hour if there's more stops or it's running a bit slower than normal. Also, the rapid transit system is worth mentioning because it's better than people expect. They have dedicated bus lanes, frequent service, connecting major corridors across the city. So for those types of people, if you're near the rapid transit, door to door into downtown Toronto. So it works if you're near GO train or rapid transit. But if you're driving, you're looking at least 45 minutes to well over an hour, depending on traffic. And I don't have to tell you, there's always traffic on the 410 or especially the 401 around rush hour. So driving can be a real pain, like many suburbs getting into Toronto. Reason number 3, Brampton is car dependent and it's a pretty big city to navigate. Brampton was built around wide roads, big subdivisions, like a lot of the other, suburbs around Toronto. There's groceries, gyms, schools. All of it means that you're getting in a car. And like we were talking about in the last point, there are highways connected to the city, but you still have quite a lot of traffic and there's close to 700,000 people here. Most people don't realize that. So Brampton's actually pretty massive and much bigger than most people picture it being. So getting from one side of the city to the other can be its own commute, even if you're not trying to get somewhere else, like getting into Toronto. And forget about getting to the East End. That's going to take you forever, somewhere like Markham or, East York. Car insurance in Ontario, like I always say, is also the highest in the country. So you add that to your gas, your maintenance, and suddenly, if you have car payments, it becomes quite expensive every month. And Brampton, you're going to need at least 1 car, if not 2 for most families with kids. I will say though, driving around in Brampton, I do notice it gets pretty crazy. You do have a lot of fast drivers here, and I get nervous driving here sometimes, even though I've been driving in the GTA for, 15 years now. All right, quiz answer time. The answer is B. So Brampton was actually famous for flower and rose exporting. Back in the 1860s, a nursery owner named Edward Dale started growing roses and orchids here, and it grew into the largest cut flower business in North America. For decades, Brampton was known nationwide as the Flower City of Canada. long before anyone thought of it as a GTA suburb. If you're trying to figure out if Brampton's the right move for you or somewhere else in the GTA you're thinking of buying, reach out to me directly. All my info's on screen right now. Or book a free call in the description below. Reason number 4, the illegal basement problem. So I'm sure some of you have heard of this issue in Brampton, but it's a common thing where unfortunately you have all these really illegal basement apartments. And that's not an uncommon thing in the GTA in general. You know, I'd say probably about 80 to 90% of basement apartments are not legal. We did ours legally. It is a big process. You have to go through a lot of permit steps and, inspections from the city. But in my opinion, it's well worth it just to avoid any liability you might have in the future and to make it a better experience for your tenants. But in Brampton, there are a lot of situations ongoing and in the past where there were 6, 7, 8 people living in what should be, a 1 or 2 bedroom basement apartment. And it's become a really big issue. The city's been issuing fines to homeowners that can reach up to $100,000 in some cases. So it can be a pretty interesting situation. You go buy a nice home on what you think is a quiet street, and it could end up being that there's way more people on that street than you expected. We had a situation recently. We live in Midtown Toronto, but we've had a bunch of fourplexes go up or multiplexes go up recently, and that's eaten up a lot of the street parking near us. But for us, at least we knew those fourplexes were going up. But just imagine being the residents of Brampton, you think it's a quiet street, and then all of a sudden it's just overrun with so many people who are cramming into a basement. And I don't really blame the individual people. They're just trying to save money on rent and expenses. And we all know how expensive the GTA is. It's ultimately on the homeowners to make sure they're abiding by the occupancy guidelines in Toronto. So generally, as far as I know, you can't really have more than 2 people per bedroom in a space. And I would even say like a 2-bedroom basement apartment with 4 people, that's fine. But when you start getting to 5, 6, 7, 8 people, some cases I've heard of situations with 10 people living in a single basement, starts getting really out of control for the residents and for the homeowners. And it makes sense the city is doing its best to clamp down on these situations. Reason number 5, Brampton doesn't really have that nightlife energy. So there's no big strip like there is in Toronto, like King West, where you can just walk around and, go to different bars or clubs if you want to do that. But it does have the largest South Asian population of any city in Canada. And the culture here runs pretty deep. It's not a recent wave. It's a couple generations deep at this point. So, the food, the festivals, the community. So you get like really authentic South Asian food, Indian food, it's really neat in that way if you're looking for great dining of specific types of cuisine. But again, it's more of a spread out city where you're driving around. I actually played softball there for the last couple of years at really nice softball center that has about 8 different softball diamonds. But there's a lot of that in Brampton. There's good community centers, there's big box stores and subdivisions, but it's not really that central, concentrated nightlife. There's cool cultural festivals and everything, but it's a bit more spread out. If you're looking for that, walking around nightlife vibe, it's definitely not that type of place. So after all that, who's Brampton for? Well, I'd say if you want more space than Toronto, if you want a significantly lower price point. I know we talked about it still being expensive, but it's way cheaper than a lot of areas of the GTA. If you want, good access to nature and community centers, and if you're okay overlooking some of the overcrowding that's been going on recently, especially with those illegal basement apartments, then it could really work for you. But if you're someone who hates traffic and driving all the time and you want to walk around instead, you want some sort of nightlife and centralized feel, then I would say Brampton is not for you at all. Better off looking somewhere a bit more central in the GTA. So now, at least after watching that video, you know if it's for you or if it's not. So I hope that helped out. If you're thinking of buying at all in the GTA, reach out to me directly. All my info is on screen, or book a free call in the link in the description below. If this video helped at all, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Hit that little bell so you know when new videos come out. I put new GTA real estate videos every Tuesday and Friday. My name's Jordan Abrams. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around town.